You didn't find another defense lawyer for me today. You had to bring prosecutorial backup on, as we're talking about Diddy. I mean, talk about a wingman, having Murphy here to talk Diddy with you.
It's got to be fair and balanced, Mark. We can't just give you a pass. We got to make you sing for your supper. All right, so am I right that this ruling...
Thing?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Megyn, you hit it on the head. I'm obviously not in the courtroom. I'm sitting right here with you. But if I'm sitting in the courtroom and my poor daughter who's sitting there cooking up my next grandchild, I cannot tell you how bad that decision is by the judge, bad meaning for Sean, because he has now adopted the sentencing guidelines that probation said he should, which you said 70, 87 months. What that also tells you when he says, I'm also going to consider the acquitted conduct. For people who don't understand, it seems counterintuitive, but in federal court, you can be acquitted. You can be found not guilty on something. I can't tell you the number of times I've had that with clients and then have to sit and explain to the client, sorry, we won that, but you got nicked on one count and they're still coming after you for the stuff that the jury said you didn't do. And he's going to get, my prediction yesterday on MK True Crime of an over-under of 39 months and taking the under, I think I've lost my bet already.
Now you go for the over. What do you think, Matt, of what's happening in that courtroom this morning?
Well, I was a little surprised, Megyn, actually, when the judge came in, because that acquitted conduct thing was a kind of a big deal in federal sentencing circles. If you practice law in federal court, that was something that pretty much every lawyer who practices criminal law in that arena was talking about. And the judge had no problem today coming in and saying, I'm going to consider this conduct. Now, he didn't come out and say that it was acquitted conduct per se, I don't think, Mark. It was, I'm going to consider these other acts of violence that were related to these things, right? But I know Mark thought the same thing I did, that's going to be fodder for appeal for sure.
Yeah, for anybody who's in the weeds.
Didn't the judge make this point when they were pushing for no bail, when Diddy's lawyers wanted bail for him? The judge said to them, you argued in your closing that he committed abuse of these women. And he used that against them to say, I'm not bailing this guy out. Like, he's going to have to sit there. So the so-called acquitted conduct, I mean, he was acquitted on legal charges, but the jury didn't say he didn't abuse these women. Even the defense admitted he abused the women. So is the judge on solid ground saying, so I'm going to consider that? What do you think, Mark?
Well, what he did in the bail hearing, I was sitting in there when he did it. The government made a very clever point. They said that the Mann Act, even though there were no allegations necessarily of violence to transport these male escorts across state lines, it's grouped in the code under a section that is violence. So anything that is in that section of the guidelines is violence, and therefore he said, I'm not going to release them on bail. He made the point at that time, and I remember hearing it and saying, well, there's a lifeline, so to speak. He said, this doesn't mean I'm going to he didn't say hammer him at sentencing, but this is with no prejudice, basically, to sentencing. What he did today, though, Matt was spot on. He says, I'm not going to, and it's a fine distinction, I'm not going to say that I'm going to consider it for the factors, but I am going to consider it for the 3553 factors. It's going to inform my decision. It's going to make me not, the way I read it, it's going to make me not go down, and I'm certainly not going to cut you a break, is the bottom line.
Go ahead, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, it's it's hard to draw the line, Megyn, on a case like this, because we all saw that tape, right? And Cassie Ventura was involved in the Mann Act. She was one of the people who was participating in the acts of prostitution. And we've seen this violence we've all watched the video, and it's horrific. So where is the court obligated to draw that line? He was acquitted of the RICO. He was acquitted of the sex trafficking. But he sure wailed on her. And look, Diddy, I know Mark
and didn't try to deny it. Totally admitted that this was him assaulting Cassie in the video we're watching right now. Oh.
Right. And look, he has, I read his letter to the court, and he's, Mark could have written that letter himself. In fact, his daughter probably did. It's predictable given all the sentencing factors that go into that. And I know Mark's got a relationship with Diddy, and I totally respect that. Mark's known him for a long time. I've never met him objectively. I think it is at the end of all this, Diddy is a horrible human being, or at least he comes off that way. And there's an old adage, Megyn, you probably remember from law school. There's the only thing more powerful than a federal judge on the planet Earth is God himself, right? Or herself, I guess, in the modern era. So this judge came out and said some very affirmative things, like Mark just said, regarding the sentencing and what he's going to consider. And Mark, I watched the segment on MK True Crime yesterday. I would have taken the over on your 39 months. But I thought that was in the ballpark yesterday, and now that is out the window.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
It looks like 70-month minimum here.
Do you know what the government said? And I haven't been complimentary of the government in this prosecution at all. But she got up today, Slavic got up today, and she said, Your Honor, you want to talk about the height of hubris? He booked speaking engagements for Miami next week. If that is true, and I have not talked to anybody on the defense to ask about that, or whoever did that should be, I'm walking a line as to what I would do, but that would be, you wouldn't just be fired if you were in my office and you allowed that to happen. I'd take a baseball bat to you, speaking of violence.
Well, how do they
can
even
you
know
believe that? I don't even want to go there. I'm so conflicted.
They monitor the
about
jailhouse
this.
calls, right? Is that like everything you say in the jail is recorded? So if he booked that while in jail, they'd know.
It's exactly. That's exactly right, Megyn. I mean, you're so smart, Jesus. And then if you knew how many times that things were said on those jailhouse calls that you just want to take somebody and get violent yourself. I mean, it's just,
right.
It's unbelievable. There's giant signs. There are giant signs in the jail. I mean, it's not like it. I mean, these signs say you are being recorded. I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
To me, it's the same thing as like those huge signs on the beaches that say shark attacks here on this beach that people still go in. And it's like, well, then they get attacked by a shark. Well, you can't say you weren't warned. So that's bad. The judge will probably consider that, Matt. The other thing is, this is a relatively young judge in terms of his experience on the bench. So for him to come in first thing and say, I am going to consider this stuff, to me, telegraphs he's been consulting with the other judges on exactly what he can and cannot do. I don't think he'd be such a gunslinger if he hadn't checked it out and felt very confident that he'll be upheld on appeal for, when it gets challenged.
No doubt. And going back to the phone call thing, Megyn, this is something that we've talked about before that nobody is really addressing, or that is, remember when he was in jail, the reason why he's felt so confident, or at least in the past on some of these jailhouse conversations, is he was using other inmates' calling codes, and he was calling witnesses. And Mark and I have both gone through this before. When you have a client or somebody that is misbehaving in that way, that's a personal affront to a judge a lot of times. And that is when he got busted for that, that was right at the very beginning, right as one of the reasons why the court kept denying the repeated bail motions, was this guy can't even follow the rules in jail. That's the type of thing that will stick with judges a lot of times. And you're right. I mean, this judge, I guarantee he was very, very careful in researching the parameters, because no judge wants to get reversed on a high-profile case. And he worded it exactly right, I think, so that he would, limit the amount of appellate challenge or scrutiny that call regarding the sentencing guidelines and consideration of acts of violence is going to impact the sentencing, because it's going to go up. They're going to spend the resources to do that. And I guarantee he had a lot of conversations with more experienced sentencing judges in federal court.
So if we're looking at the 70 months to 84 months, whatever we just said, that's around 7 years, six and change to 7 and change. What happens with that, Mark? If he gets that, how much of that does he serve in a federal sentence?
Somebody that I just had a sentencing last week in Matt's backyard and down in the Santa Ana courthouse, and the client got 24 months. Somebody, when I came back to the office and I was complaining about the 24 months, said, "Forget about it. They'll be out in 5 months. 24 months is the new year and a day." It used to be a year and a day was the way you get out. There are programs now, the RDAP, First Step, things of that nature, that greatly reduce your time. But it is not, so that people understand, in the federal system, it's starting to get more like the state, but it's not like the state where you get set good time, work time on a 5-year sentence. If you're half-time, you'll be out in half-time. Federal doesn't work that way. If he gets 60 or 70 months, he's going to do real time. And because of depending, one of the other things you have to keep in mind is, where does he get designated? What kinds of findings does the judge make? He can, the difference between a satellite camp in Lompoc and someplace that is a level or 2 levels above is a monumental difference. It's the difference between going to summer camp and then having to watch yourself at all times.
Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, that is reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you're missing the boat. Here are the facts. Inflation, still too high. The US dollar, still too weak. And the government debt is still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door right now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation. There's just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and in this case, the present. Gold has historically been a safe haven, and it's doing gangbusters right now. So text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. Text MK to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.